Hey guys, today in the kitchen, it's Ron's birthday tomorrow, so I'm baking him a birthday cake. And I'm baking one of his favorites, which actually happens to be one of mine too, a flourless chocolate cake. And since it's birthday, we're like not skimping on anything. It's like butter, sugar, like the real deal for all of it. Because birthdays are birthdays. So the ingredients for a flourless chocolate cake are actually pretty simple. There's 4 eggs, and you're going to want to separate them when you crack them. So you want to put your whites into the larger bowl and your yolks into a smaller bowl. And there's about 1.5 sticks of unsalted butter at room temperature, about 16 ounces of bittersweet dark chocolate. And you want to make sure it's bittersweet because you don't want it to be too sugary because you are going to add sugar. And then there is about 1/2 cup of granulated sugar. I'm choosing to use sugar in the raw just because I prefer sugar in the raw. And then about 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. You want to make sure again that that's unsweetened. A tablespoon of vanilla, 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt, and a little bit of confection sugar for garnish. And you're going to start it all by greasing a cake pan, and you're going to put some parchment paper on the bottom and butter the parchment on top, and then like a little swirl of butter around the sides as well. If you don't have a spring foam pan, which I don't happen to have because I've never been able to find one that actually really holds tight, this is a beautiful alternative to a spring foam pan, and it really, really works. So we're gonna actually start by melting the butter and the chocolate in a double boiler. Now, I don't actually have a double boiler, but it's super easy to create one. You can take a big pot and fill it halfway with water, and then go ahead and put a heat-proof or a heat-safe glass bowl over top of it. Let the water start to simmer, and then add your ingredients that you want to melt down. So we'll head over to the stove and we'll go ahead and we'll get this butter and chocolate starting to melt down together. I've created a double boiler out of just a stock pot and a glass bowl, and you can see that the water is just kind of starting to simmer around the sides. And I'm gonna go ahead and add in the butter and the chocolate, and I'm gonna let it melt together, giving it a stir every once in a while until they combine into one creamy deliciousness. You want to make sure that you break your chocolate up into small pieces, small chunks, so that it melts nice and easy. I'm going to let it get a little bit warm, and then I'm going to go ahead and give it a stir. But while this is actually melting itself down, I'm going to go ahead and get some of the dry ingredients together and whip the eggs. While the chocolate and the butter are melting down and coming together, I'm just going to go ahead and put the sugar and the unsweetened cocoa powder into a bowl together and give them a nice mix just so that they can come together. So just a little mix here. And then once these are mixed together, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna use and that's looking good, I think. Yeah, that looks nice. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab my hand mixer with a whisk attachment. So you wanna use a whisk attachment and not a beater attachment. And just the egg whites, I'm gonna start whipping the egg whites until they start to form really nice soft white peaks. So you wanna whip it on like medium, high. It's gonna take a little bit, it takes a while, so patience is a virtue here. But in the end, it's going to be worth it. So right now I'm doing it on about a 5 with the whites with a whisk attachment. So that was fast. No, it was actually about 5 minutes. So the egg whites are all nice and beat, and now you can see they have like nice white peaks. They're nice and fluffy. So that's all nice and done. And now we're gonna move on to putting all the mixtures together. So while I've been whipping the eggs and taking care of the sugar and the cocoa, you can see that the butter and the chocolate are really starting to melt here. So I'm giving them a little bit of a stir, just kind of giving it a mix around. And I'm going to continue to let it ride out till it becomes one chocolatey bowl of chocolate. It's been a few minutes now, and the butter and the chocolate are really starting to melt. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to stir this for a few minutes until they come fully together. And then I'll take it out and just let it rest for a few minutes before I add it to the mixture of everything else for the cake. Now that the egg whites and the salt are mixed and whipped together, I'm gonna go ahead and in the chocolate and butter, which is nice and melted, I'm gonna add in the sugar and the cocoa powder, the unsweetened cocoa powder. And I'm also gonna add in the egg yolks. I'm gonna get all of the yolk in there, so I'm gonna grab my spatula, get it all out. And we're gonna add in the vanilla. And go ahead and use your whisk, and you're gonna whisk this together, just gently, till it becomes nice and mixed. This looks and smells really, really good. I don't know about y'all, but I love chocolate, and I especially love bittersweet dark chocolate. There's something about it that's super, super satisfying. And then once you have that mixed a little bit nicely, you can give it another little bit of a whisk. You're gonna go ahead and fold in just about a quarter of the egg whites. So go ahead and grab your spatula, grab a bit of your egg whites, and your egg whites are what's really gonna go ahead and make this rise and then also fall. So this is what's gonna lift the cake in lieu of the flour or any of the other things that you would typically add to a cake. And you're just gonna slowly, little bits at a time, continue to fold in the egg whites. So I'm gonna grab a little bit more here and just continuing to, quarter at a time, fold them into the chocolate, butter, cocoa powder, vanilla, sugar, all that goodness. And just go ahead and folding it in. I folded in all the egg whites super quick, yeah? No, actually that took me quite a minute. My arm is killing me, but it's all good. So now that it's all folded together, I'm gonna go ahead and just put this mixture right into the cake pan. Like I said, the cake pan was already pre-greased and parchment paper on the bottom so that it will release. And once you get this cake in there, the batter in there, you'll go ahead and give it a little bit of a shake so it gets nice and even. But the batter should be nice and thick because, you know, with a flourless chocolate cake, it rises, but then it falls. And it's nice and dense and chocolatey and thick. So it's not like a big cake. It's more of a flatter cake. But boy, is it delicious. And it's really yummy with a fresh whip or a scoop of vanilla ice cream warm. So either way works for me. So you can go ahead, once you've got it in the pan, you can spread it out a little bit so it makes its way all the way around the pan. It's nice and even. I can smell this chocolate smells incredible. And then once you feel like you have it kind of even, might as well get rid of all of it and maybe even take a finger. There we go. You can give it a little shake so it's nice and even. You'll go ahead and I'll pop it in the oven, which I already preheated at 350 degrees, and I'll bake it for about 30 to 35 minutes or until a fork or a skewer, actually a skewer, comes, you can stick it in there and it comes out nice and clean. So I'll check on it about 30 minutes. After about 45 minutes, the skewer came out nice and clean on the cake, nothing on it, so that lets me know it's done. And it's been sitting in the pan here just kind of cooling now for probably about 15 or 20 minutes. And you can see that it's starting to crackle on the top, which is good news. And as it cools down, it's gonna go ahead and start to shrink away from the sides. And then because I put that parchment on the bottom, it'll be easy to just kind of get it off. So I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit, and then I'm gonna go ahead and I'll remove it, and we'll go ahead and plate it and put the finishing touches on it. The cake's been resting now for probably about a half an hour just to like really let it cool. And I'm just gonna take a spatula and just kind of go around the edge. And one of the beautiful things about a flourless chocolate cake is it doesn't have to be perfect. You kind of want it a little cracked, kind of organic. And then I'm gonna take a plate and put it on top here and just give it a flip so I can remove the, oh, I hear that. Sounds good. So I can go ahead and remove, see the parchment paper came right off, which is beautiful. And it still feels like it might be, no, actually I think it's good. I'm gonna go ahead and add the confection sugar as a finishing touch. So just wanna take off that little bit of parchment, there we go. And just a little bit of a sprinkle of confection sugar along the top. Just a nice little dusting. And I like it when it kind of gets on the plate a little bit too, because I just think it feels fun and festive. And I'm gonna go ahead, I found these gold candles that I forgot I had them. So I'm so glad I had them for Ron's birthday. I'm gonna go ahead and put the candles in there. And I can put some foil on top of this, give it a tent, and let it stay overnight. I lost a candle. Gotta get that one last guy in there. There we go, right in the middle. So happy birthday, Lovey, quarantine birthday. Oh my gosh, you would have thought, but happy birthday. I love you, Lovey. Thank you so much for all you do for me. I super appreciate you. And I hope you enjoy your flourless chocolate cake.